The cold metal of the asteroid station felt familiar under Daewon's boots as he walked through the maintenance tunnel. He had been working on Hansong 7 for 3 years now. And every corner of this place looked the same. Gray walls, flickering lights, and the constant hum of life support systems. It was boring work, but it paid well enough to send money back home to Earth. Today was supposed to be a simple job. Check the external sensors on the eastern sector, replace anything broken, and go back to his small room. Nothing exciting ever happened out here in the asteroid belt. That was why people like him took these jobs. No excitement meant no danger. But when Daewon stepped through the airlock to the station's exterior, something caught his eye. There was debris floating near one of the sensor arrays. That was not unusual in an asteroid field. But this debris looked different. It was too smooth, too purposeful. As he moved closer with his magnetic boots clicking against the hull, he realized what he was seeing. It was a spacecraft, or what was left of one. The small vessel was badly damaged. Burn marks scarred its surface, and one entire side had been torn open. It looked like an escape pod, but not a human design. Daewon had seen plenty of alien ships docking at the station, but this one was different. Smaller. More desperate. He activated his helmet radio and spoke to the station control. "This is Daewon, in Sector 7. I found something out here. Looks like a damaged alien pod." The voice that came back sounded bored. "Is it a hazard to the station?" Daewon looked at the pod again. It was not moving, and it was not leaking anything dangerous. No hazard, but someone might be inside. "Follow protocol, report it to security, and come back in. They will handle it." Daewon knew what that meant. Security would take hours to send a team. If anyone was inside that pod, they might not have hours. He looked at the small vessel again and saw something that made his heart beat faster. There was a faint light inside, flickering like a dying candle. He made a decision that would change everything. "Control, I am going to check inside first. Make sure no one is hurt." "Negative, Daewon. That is not your job. Come back inside." He turned off his radio. His supervisor would be angry, but he could deal with that later. Right now, someone might need help. The pod's door was damaged but not completely destroyed. Daewon used his maintenance tools to pry it open carefully. The metal groaned and finally gave way. He pulled himself inside, and his helmet light illuminated the interior. What he saw made him freeze. There were 2 aliens inside. One was clearly an adult, lying against the wall with strange blue blood covering their chest. The other was small, perhaps a child, huddled in the corner with large eyes that reflected his light like a frightened animal. The adult alien moved slightly and made a weak sound. Daewon pulled himself closer. His training as a maintenance worker, completely useless for this situation. The alien reached out with a thin arm and touched a device on their chest. Suddenly, words came from it. Translated into Korean. "Please, help, my child." Daewon looked at the small alien in the corner. The child was shaking, making soft crying sounds that needed no translation. They were terrified. "I will get help," Daewon said, hoping the device worked both ways. "Medical team, you will be okay." The adult alien, whose name he would later learn was Ralvin, gripped his arm with surprising strength. "No. No authorities. They will take Lyra. They hunt us for what we are." "I don't understand," Daewon said, confused and scared. "Who hunts you?" "Everyone." The alien's voice through the translator was getting weaker. "My child can heal. Her body cures disease. They will never let her be free. Please, hide her, protect her." Daewon felt ice in his stomach. He had heard rumors about alien trafficking, about rare species being captured and sold, but he had never believed it was this bad. He looked at the small child again. Lyra. She was watching him with those huge eyes, and he saw something in them he recognized. The same fear he had seen in his sister's eyes years ago, right before the factory accident that killed her. I couldn't save Ji-won, he whispered to himself. But, maybe. The adult alien was dying. Dae-won could see it clearly now. The blue blood had stopped flowing, but only because there was not much left. Ralvin used the last of their strength to push the child toward Dae-won. Promise me, the alien whispered. Promise. You will protect her. Dae-won looked at this dying parent, at this terrified child, and at his own hands. He was just a maintenance worker. He fixed broken sensors and cleaned air filters. He was nobody important, but right now, he was the only one here. I promise, he said. Ralvin's eyes closed, and the translator went silent. The alien was dead. Lyra made a sound of pure grief that cut through Dae-won's heart. She crawled to her parents' body and pressed her small face against them, crying in a way that needed no translation. Dae-won felt tears in his own eyes. He had maybe 10 minutes before someone came looking for him. 10 minutes to decide what to do. He could call security right now, report everything, follow the rules, let them take the child to whatever government facility handled these things. Or he could break every rule he had ever followed. Dae-won looked at the child one more time. Lyra had stopped crying and was staring at him with those reflective eyes. She was probably wondering if he would hurt her too. He thought about his sister again. About how he had been too slow, too weak to save her when the machinery failed. He had lived with that guilt for 10 years. He reached out his hand slowly, carefully. Lyra did not understand his words, but perhaps she understood his tone. She was scared, but she was more scared of being alone. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took his hand. Dae-won picked up the small alien child and held her inside his maintenance suit, where she would not be seen. She weighed almost nothing. He took one last look at Ralvin's body and made a silent promise to the dead parent. Then, he kicked off from the pod and made his way back to the station airlock. His radio crackled to life. Dae-won, what is your status? He pressed the button and lied for the first time in his life. Nothing important. Just debris. I am coming back in now. As he entered the airlock and felt the air pressure normalize, he felt the small alien child trembling against his chest. He had just made a choice that could cost him everything. His job, his freedom, maybe even his life. But when he looked down at Lyra's frightened face, he knew he had made the only choice he could live with. The door opened, and Dae-won stepped into the station, carrying a secret that would change the galaxy. 3 days had passed since Dae-won brought Lyra to his quarters, and every minute felt like walking on broken glass. His small room in the workers' section of Hansong 7 was never meant for 2 people, especially when one of them had to stay hidden at all times. Lyra spent most of her time hiding under his bed or in the storage closet whenever he heard footsteps outside. She was good at being quiet, which broke his heart. No child should be that good at hiding. The hardest part was food. Human food made her sick at first, and he had no idea what her species normally ate. He tried different things from the station cafeteria, bringing them back in secret. She could eat fruits and some vegetables, but anything processed made her ill. He watched her lose weight, and panic filled his chest. On the 4th day, Lyra started making strange sounds. At first, Dae-won thought she was crying, but then he realized she was sick. Really sick. Her skin, which normally had a soft blue color, was turning gray. Her breathing became difficult. He paced in his room like a trapped animal. If he took her to the medical bay, they would discover her immediately. If he did not take her, she might die. He had promised to protect her, but he did not know how. There was a knock on his door, and his heart nearly stopped. Dae-won, are you in there? It was a woman's voice. Hey Jin. One of the station's medical workers. He quickly gestured for Lyra to hide, but she was too weak to move fast. She crawled under the bed just as he opened the door slightly. Hey Heejin, what do you need? He tried to sound normal, but his voice was too tight. Heijin looked at him with concern. She was in her late 30s, with kind eyes and short hair. They sometimes ate together in the cafeteria. You have been acting strange lately. Missing meals. Not talking to anyone. Are you okay? I am fine. Just tired. She looked past him into the room. And he felt sweat on his back. Can I come in? I brought some medicine. You look sick. No, I am really fine. I just need sleep. But then, Lyra made a sound. A small, pained sound that could not be hidden. Heijin's eyes widened. Is someone in there with you? No, that was just my computer. Heijin pushed past him gently but firmly. She was a medic, and she knew when someone was lying. She stepped into the room and looked around. Her eyes went to the bed. Please, do not, Daewon said, but it was too late. Heijin knelt down and looked under the bed. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, she stood up slowly, her face showing complete shock. That is a child, she whispered. An alien child. I can explain, Daewon started, but Heijin held up her hand. How long has she been here? 4 days. She is sick. I know. I do not know how to help her. Heijin looked at him for a long moment, and he prepared himself for her to call security. Instead, she knelt down again and spoke softly. Sweetheart, I am a doctor. Can you come out? I want to help you. Lyra looked at Daewon, her eyes asking if this new person was safe. He nodded. Slowly, Lyra crawled out from under the bed. Heijin examined her with professional care, checking her breathing and looking at her gray skin. She pulled out a small medical scanner from her bag and ran it over Lyra's body. She has an infection, probably from the environmental change. Her body is not used to the station's air. Can you fix it? Maybe. But first, you need to tell me everything. Daewon told her the whole story. About finding the escape pod, about Ralvin's death, about the promise he made. Heijin listened, without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Do you know what species she is? The parent said something about healing. That people hunt them. Heijin's face went pale. Veltheron. She is Veltheron. She looked at Lyra with new understanding. I read about them in medical school. Their bodies produce something that can cure diseases that normally cannot be cured. Rich people pay millions to get access to Veltheron children. That is horrible. Yes. And if anyone finds her here, she will disappear into some lab or private collection. Heijin stood up. I will help you. Unquote. 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 What? But you could lose your job. Or worse. I became a doctor to help people. All people. That includes her. She pulled out medicine from her bag. This should help with the infection. But we need to get her proper food and better hiding arrangements. Over the next 2 weeks, Heijin and Daewon worked together to care for Lyra. Heijin brought special foods that would not make her sick. She created fake medical records in case anyone asked questions. She even started teaching Lyra some basic Korean words. Lyra slowly got better. Her skin returned to its normal blue color, and she started eating more. She was still scared, but she began to trust them. Sometimes, Daewon would wake up in the middle of the night and find her sleeping next to his bed, as if she was afraid he would disappear. He started teaching her simple things. How to hide her bioluminescent markings that appeared on her skin when she was emotional. How to stay quiet when people walked past. How to pretend to be a human child if anyone saw her. It was during one of these lessons that everything fell apart. An announcement came over the station speakers. All personnel report to main hall for emergency assembly. Daewon looked at Heijin with fear. What is happening? I do not know. But you need to hide her better. Now. They created a false panel in the closet where Lyra could hide. It was uncomfortable, but safe. Lyra climbed in without complaint, her eyes showing she understood the danger. I will be back soon, Daewon promised. Stay quiet, okay? She nodded and squeezed his hand once before he closed the panel. The main hall was filled with station workers, all looking confused and worried. Day 1 stood next to He Jin, trying to look normal while his heart raced. A tall alien in a military uniform stepped onto the platform. He had scales instead of skin and cold, calculating eyes. When he spoke, his translator gave his words in perfect Korean. "I am Commander Tavik of the Galactic Council Security Forces. We are searching for a missing escape pod and its occupants. A Veltharan adult and child were reported in this sector 3 weeks ago. We have reason to believe they may have made contact with this station." Day 1 felt like ice water had been poured over him. 3 weeks. They had been looking for that long. Anyone with information about alien contact must report it immediately. Failure to do so is a crime against the Galactic Council. Commander Tavik's eyes scanned the crowd, and for a moment, Day 1 felt like they looked directly at him. "We will be conducting interviews and quarters inspections starting tomorrow." The assembly was dismissed, and people began talking nervously among themselves. Day 1 and He Jin walked back quickly, but not too quickly. They needed to look normal. "They are going to search the rooms," He Jin whispered. "The false panel will not fool a proper search. What do we do?" "I do not know, but we need to think of something fast." When they got back to his quarters, they found Lyra crying quietly in her hiding spot. She had heard the announcement through the walls. Day 1 pulled her out and held her, feeling her small body shake with fear. "I promised to protect you," he said softly, "and I keep my promises." But as he looked at He Jin's worried face, he wondered if his promise was something he could actually keep. Commander Tavik did not look like someone who gave up easily, and tomorrow they would be searching every room on the station. He had less than 24 hours to figure out how to hide a child that the entire galaxy was looking for. The weight of his promise felt heavier than anything he had ever carried. But when Lyra looked up at him with trust in her eyes, he knew he would do whatever it took, even if it meant risking everything. The inspection was scheduled to begin at 8 in the morning. Day 1 had exactly 12 hours to do something impossible. He sat in his quarters with He Jin, both of them thinking hard while Lyra slept fitfully on his bed. The child was exhausted from fear. Every time someone walked past in the hallway, she would wake up with terror in her eyes. "We cannot hide her forever," He Jin said quietly. "Even if we fool them tomorrow, they will keep watching." Commander Tavik does not look like someone who gives up. Quote, "So what do we do?" "We get her off the station." Day 1 stared at her. "How?" "Every ship that leaves is inspected. Every person is scanned. I know someone who might help. His name is Kyung-soo. He runs a transport ship, brings supplies to the station. He is not exactly legal, if you understand what I mean. A smuggler? I prefer to think of him as a man who asks fewer questions than most." He Jin pulled out her communication device. "He owes me a favor. A big one. I saved his life 2 years ago, when he came in with radiation poisoning." She made the call. The conversation was short and quiet. When she finished, she looked at Day 1 with a mix of hope and worry. "He will meet us at Docking Bay 7 in 3 hours, but he wants to know where you plan to take her." "To her homeworld." "Velthara." "Where else?" "Velthara. That is 3 jump gates away through some very dangerous space. Kyung-soo says the bounty on Veltharan children is so high that every pirate and mercenary in the sector will be looking for her. I do not care. I promise to keep her safe. Safe means home." He Jin looked at him for a long moment. "You know this will cost you everything, right? Your job, your life here, maybe your freedom. They will call you a criminal. I know. And you are still going to do it?" Day 1 looked at Lyra sleeping on his bed. She was curled into a small ball, and even in sleep, she looked afraid. He thought about his sister again, about how he had been too late to save her, about how he had lived with that guilt every single day since. "Yes," he said simply. "I am still going to do it." They spent the next 2 hours preparing. Heijin gave him medical supplies and food that Lyra could eat. She also gave him something else. A small data chip. "What is this?" he asked. "Everything I could find about the Veltharan trafficking network. Names, locations, evidence. If you make it out alive, give this to someone who can use it. Maybe we can stop this from happening to other children." At exactly 3 in the morning, they wrapped Lyra in a large maintenance bag, the kind used to carry equipment. It was not comfortable, but it would get her through the corridors without being seen. She did not complain, just held onto Daewon's hand through the fabric. Docking Bay 7 was in the industrial section, far from the main areas. They moved quickly, but carefully through the empty hallways. Once, they heard footsteps and had to hide behind a cargo container. Daewon's heart beat so loud he was sure everyone could hear it. When they reached the bay, a man was waiting next to a small transport ship. Kyung-soo was older than Daewon expected, maybe 50, with scars on his face and tired eyes that had seen too much. "This is the package?" he asked, looking at the maintenance bag. "This is a child," Daewon said firmly. "Her name is Lyra." This is a child. Daewon. Kyung-soo's expression softened slightly. "Let me see her." Daewon carefully opened the bag. Lyra climbed out, looking at this new stranger with fear. Kyung-soo knelt down to her level. "Hello, little one," he said gently. "I had a daughter once. She would be about your age now, if the slavers had not taken her." His voice was rough with old pain. "I could not save my child. But maybe I can help save you." He stood up and looked at Daewon. "My ship is fast, but the moment we leave, they will know something is wrong. Commander Tavik has scanners on all the docking bays. We will have maybe a 5-minute head start before they come after us." "That is enough," Daewon said, though he had no idea if it was true. "No, it is not," Kyung-soo said bluntly. "But it is all we have." They boarded the ship, which Kyung-soo called the Morning Star. It was small and old, but the engines hummed with power. The interior was cramped, with barely enough room for 3 people. Heijin hugged Daewon at the airlock. "Be safe. And when you get back, I expect a full explanation of how you survived." "You are not coming? Someone needs to stay here and slow them down. I will tell them I saw you heading to the other side of the station. Buy you some extra time." She smiled sadly. "Besides, I am a terrible liar. Always have been. I would just get you caught. Heijin, go. Now. Before I change my mind about being brave." She pushed him gently onto the ship and closed the airlock behind him. Through the window, he saw her walk away quickly, and he wondered if he would ever see her again. "Strap in," Kyung-soo said from the pilot's seat. "This is going to be rough." Daewon helped Lyra into a seat and showed her how to use the safety straps. She did not understand all his words yet, but she understood the tone. She was scared, but trusting. The Morning Star detached from the docking bay and began moving away from the station. For a moment, Daewon thought they might actually make it without anyone noticing. Then the alarm started. "Here we go," Kyung-soo muttered. He pushed the engines to full power, and the ship accelerated hard. Daewon felt like someone was sitting on his chest. "Security vessel launching from the station," Kyung-soo said, reading his instruments. "Another one. 3 now. They are fast. Can we outrun them? Through the asteroid field? Maybe. If we are lucky, and they are stupid." He guided the ship into the thick field of rocks that surrounded the station. Asteroids flew past the windows at terrifying speeds. Kyung-soo's hands moved over the controls with practiced skill, dodging and weaving through gaps that looked impossibly small. Behind them, the security vessels followed. Daewon could see them on the rear cameras. 3 sleek ships, with weapons visible on their hulls. "They are firing!" Kyung-soo shouted. Energy blasts lit up the space around them. Most missed, but one hit the ship's rear shield. The Morning Star shook violently. "Shields at 60%, Kyung-soo reported. We cannot take many more hits like that. Lyra suddenly grabbed Daewon's arm. She was looking to the left, her eyes wide. She pointed and made an urgent sound. What is it? Daewon asked. She pointed more insistently. Kyung-soo glanced at her, then at his instruments. There is nothing there. Just empty space. But Lyra kept pointing, her voice getting more urgent. There was real fear in her eyes. Different from before. Turn left, Daewon said suddenly. Now. What? But, now. Kyung-soo trusted him and turned hard to the left. 3 seconds later, a massive asteroid appeared exactly where they had been flying. If they had continued straight, they would have crashed into it at full speed. Kyung-soo stared at his instruments in shock. That asteroid was not on my scanners. How did she know? She. I think she can sense danger, Daewon said, looking at Lyra with wonder. Before it happens. Useful, Kyung-soo said. Then, to Lyra. Okay. Little one. You are my new navigator. Tell me where the danger is. For the next 20 minutes, they flew through the asteroid field with Lyra as their guide. Every time she pointed or made a sound, Kyung-soo followed her direction. They avoided asteroids, debris, and several more weapon blasts from the pursuing ships. The security vessels were not so lucky. Without Lyra's gift, they had to rely on their scanners alone. One ship crashed into an asteroid and exploded. Another took damage and fell behind. Finally, they reached the edge of the field. Open space stretched ahead of them, and in the distance, Daewon could see the shimmer of a jump gate. If we can reach that gate, we can escape, Kyung-soo said. But we have one security ship still following, and we are not fast enough to outrun them in open space. The ship shook again as another blast hit their shields. Shields at 20%. One more good hit, and we are done. Daewon held Lyra close as the ship raced toward the gate. The security vessel was gaining on them, weapons charging for another shot. They were not going to make it. Then, suddenly, Lyra started making a strange sound. It was like singing, but not quite. Her skin began to glow with soft blue light, the bioluminescent markings that she usually kept hidden. What is she doing? Kyung-soo asked. I do not know. The glow grew brighter, and Daewon felt something strange in the air. Like electricity, but different. Lyra touched the ship's wall, and the glow spread through the metal. The ship's engines roared with sudden new power. The shields, which had been at 20%, jumped to full strength. Impossible, Kyung-soo whispered. She is healing the ship. They shot forward with incredible speed, leaving the security vessel behind. Within seconds, they reached the jump gate and passed through in a flash of light. When they emerged on the other side, the security vessel was gone. They had escaped. Kyung-soo sat back in his chair, breathing hard. In 30 years of flying, I have never seen anything like that. Lyra's glow faded, and she collapsed against Daewon, exhausted. He held her gently, feeling her small heart racing. Rest now, he whispered. You did amazing. As the morning star flew through the darkness toward the next jump gate, Daewon realized something. This was just the beginning. They had 3 more gates to cross, and Commander Tavik would not give up. By now, the entire galaxy probably knew about them. But looking at Lyra's peaceful face as she slept, he knew he had made the right choice. No matter what came next, he would keep his promise. The morning star limped into orbit around New Busan, smoke trailing from its damaged engines. They had made it through 2 more jump gates, but the last one had been brutal. 3 different mercenary groups had attacked them, all hunting for the bounty on Lyra's head. Kyung-soo had managed to outfly them, but the ship had paid the price. We need repairs, Kyung-soo said, his face gray with exhaustion. And we need them now, or this ship is not flying anywhere. Daewon looked at Lyra, who was sleeping in the co-pilot's chair. She had used her abilities twice more to heal the ship during their journey, and each time It left her weaker. She could not keep doing it forever. Is New Busan safe? He asked. Safer than staying in space. I have a friend there. One sheik. He runs a repair station and asks no questions. It is a frontier world, mostly human colonists who came here to escape the crowded core systems. They landed at a small repair facility on the edge of a town that looked like it had been built from spare parts and determination. The buildings were a mix of prefabricated colony modules and locally constructed additions. People moved through the streets with the tired but steady walk of those who worked hard every day. One sheik was waiting at the landing pad. He was a big man, with strong arms, and a face that had seen its share of fights. When he saw the damage to the Morning Star, he whistled low. You made someone very angry, he said to Kyung-soo. More than someone. Try the entire Galactic Council. One sheik raised his eyebrows. What did you do? I helped a good man save a child. Day One climbed out of the ship carrying Lyra, who was wrapped in a blanket. One sheik's expression changed when he saw her. A Veltharan child, he said quietly. I heard about this on the news feeds. There is a bounty of 10 million credits on her. And on you too. He looked at Day One. You must be the crazy human who started all this. I prefer to think of myself as someone who keeps his promises, Day One said. One sheik studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I had a son once. Died when he was young. Sickness that we could not cure out here on the frontier. He looked at Lyra again. If I had known a Veltharan child could have saved him, I would have moved heaven and earth to find one. But I never would have forced it. Never would have made a child suffer for it. He gestured to the repair shop. Bring her inside. Both of you. I will fix your ship, and we will figure out what to do next. Inside the shop, one sheik's wife brought them food and water. Lyra ate slowly, still exhausted from the journey. Day One noticed she was staying close to him, never letting him out of her sight. She trusts you, one sheik observed. Not many children would trust a stranger of a different species after what she has been through. I made her a promise, Day One said simply. While Kyung-soo and One sheik worked on repairing the Morning Star, Day One tried to rest. But he could not stop thinking about what came next. They still had one more jump gate to reach Velthara. And by now, everyone knew where they were heading. Commander Tavik would be setting traps. More mercenaries would be hunting them. He was pulled from these dark thoughts by Lyra tugging on his sleeve. She pointed to the window, her face showing fear. Outside, Daewon saw a crowd gathering in the street. At first, he thought they were coming to attack, and his hand went to the tool belt he had taken to wearing as a poor excuse for a weapon. But then he realized the people were not angry. They looked concerned, worried. One sheik came over and looked outside. Word spreads fast in a small town. Everyone knows you are here. Crowed. 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 Should we run? Where? Your ship will not fly for at least 2 more days. And even if it could, you would not make it out of orbit. There are 3 mercenary vessels circling this planet right now, waiting for you to leave. Day One felt his hope draining away. So this is where it ends? Maybe, one sheik said. Or maybe not. Come outside. Talk to the people. Let them see what they are really protecting. Against his better judgment, Day One picked up Lyra and walked outside. The crowd parted for him. There were maybe 100 people, colonists of all ages. They stared at Lyra with curiosity, but not hostility. An older woman stepped forward. Her name was Su Bin, and she had been a military officer before retiring to New Busan. We have been watching the news, she said. We know what is happening. We know there are people coming for this child. I am sorry, Daewon said. I did not mean to bring danger to your town. Do not apologize for doing what is right, Su Bin said firmly. We came to this frontier to escape the corrupt core systems. We came here because we believe in freedom and doing what is right, even when it is hard. She looked around at the crowd. How many of us came here because we were running from something? Because we wanted a better life for our children? There were murmurs of agreement from the crowd. This child deserves that same freedom, Subin continued. She deserves to go home. And I say we help her get there. You do not understand, Day-One said. The people coming for her are dangerous. Trained soldiers. Mercenaries. They will not care about your town or your people. Then we will fight them, a voice called from the crowd. You could die, Day-One said desperately. Why would you risk that for us? You do not even know us. Subin smiled sadly. Because someone has to stand up to the bullies. Because if we do not protect children, what kind of people are we? And because. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Because we are tired of hearing about humans being weak, being cruel, being selfish. Maybe it is time we show the galaxy what humans are really capable of when we decide to do what is right. Over the next day, the town of New Busan transformed. Subin organized the defense with military precision. She had colonists setting up barricades, preparing positions, and checking weapons. Not everyone in town had guns, but everyone had tools that could be weapons if necessary. Day-One tried to tell them it was too dangerous, but they ignored him. One chick just laughed and said, "You underestimate frontier people. We did not survive out here by running away from every threat." Meanwhile, Day-One worked on something else. He had the data chip that Heijin had given him, full of evidence about the Veltheran trafficking network. He contacted an independent journalist, a woman who had built a reputation for exposing corruption. "I have proof," he told her over an encrypted channel. "Proof of everything. Names, locations, transactions. But I need you to hold it until the right moment." "What moment?" she asked. "You will know." On the second day, Commander Tavik arrived. His ship landed outside the town with a force of 30 mercenaries, all heavily armed. Tavik himself walked forward with the arrogance of someone who had never been told no. "This is your last chance," he announced through a speaker system. "Send out the Veltheran child and the human criminal, and the rest of you will be spared." Subin stood at the barricade, rifle in hand. "No. I have 30 trained soldiers," Tavik said. "You have farmers and shopkeepers. This is not a fight you can win." "Maybe not," Subin said. "But it is a fight worth having." Tavik's face darkened with anger. "So be it." The battle began with gunfire. The mercenaries advanced on the town with professional precision, but the colonists fought back with desperate courage. Day-One found himself firing a weapon he barely knew how to use, protecting Lyra, who had refused to stay hidden. The fight was brutal and chaotic. Buildings burned. People screamed. The colonists were losing ground, being pushed back toward the center of town. Lyra suddenly ran forward, toward the wounded colonists who had fallen. Her skin began to glow with that beautiful blue light. The man's wounds closed. He gasped in shock and stood up, healed completely. She moved to another wounded person, then another. Each time, her glow healed their injuries. The colonists stared in amazement. "This is what they want to capture," Subin shouted to her people. "This beautiful gift, trapped in a laboratory forever. Are we going to let that happen?" "No!" the colonists roared back. They fought harder, inspired by Lyra's courage. But the mercenaries kept pushing forward. Tavik himself led the final assault, heading straight for Lyra. Day-One threw himself between them. Tavik's weapon fired, and pain exploded in Day-One's chest. He fell, his vision going dark around the edges. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Lyra's terrified face above him and her desperate attempt to heal him with her glowing hands. Somewhere in the distance, he heard the sound of approaching engines. Many engines. And he wondered if help had finally arrived, or if it was just more enemies coming to finish what Tavik had started. Then everything went dark. Day-One woke up in a medical bay, but not the small frontier clinic he expected. This was an advanced facility, with equipment he had never seen before. His chest hurt, but the pain was manageable. He was alive. "You are awake," a calm voice said. A doctor approached his bed, checking his vital signs. "You are very lucky. The blast should have killed you, but someone stabilized you in time." "Lyra," Day One gasped, trying to sit up. "The Veltheron child is safe, resting in the next room. She exhausted herself healing you during transport. She refused to leave your side until we promised you would live." "Transport? Where am I?" "You are on the Human Alliance flagship, the Determination. We arrived at New Busan just as Commander Tavik was about to capture you and the child." Daewon's mind raced, trying to understand. A journalist named He-jin contacted every major news network in the galaxy. She sent them footage of everything that happened on New Busan. The battle, the colonists defending a child against mercenaries, and most importantly, evidence of the Veltheron trafficking network that has been operating for decades. The doctor's expression darkened. "The galaxy has been watching your story unfold in real time. You have become quite famous. I do not want to be famous. I just want Lyra to be safe. She is. And soon, she will be home." Over the next few days, Day One learned what had happened while he was unconscious. The footage that He-jin had released had caused a massive scandal across the galaxy. Millions of beings had watched as colonists fought to protect a child, as Lyra had healed the wounded, and as Day One had taken a blast meant for her. The Galactic Council had been forced to act. An investigation was launched immediately. Commander Tavik and his mercenaries had been arrested. More importantly, the data chip evidence exposed dozens of powerful individuals involved in the trafficking network. Some were council members themselves. "There are protests on 50 different worlds," the ship's captain told him when she visited. "People are demanding change, demanding protection for vulnerable species. They are calling it the Lyra movement." Day One could only shake his head in wonder. "All I did was keep a promise. You did more than that. You showed everyone what one person can accomplish when they refuse to look away from injustice." He-jin arrived on the ship 3 days later. She ran to Day One's room and hugged him so hard he winced. Sorry, she said, pulling back. "I was so worried. When I saw you get shot on the live feed, I thought." She could not finish the sentence. "You saved us," Day One said. "Without you sending that evidence, we would have lost everything. We are a team," she said simply. "You taught me that. You taught all of us that." Kyung-soo and Won-shik visited too. Won-shik's arm was bandaged from the battle, but he was smiling. "My town is famous now. Journalists keep showing up, wanting to interview everyone. Subin has given so many speeches, she is losing her voice." "How many people were hurt?" Daewon asked quietly. "In the battle? 17 injured, but all are recovering. 3 would have died if not for Lyra healing them." Won-shik's voice was thick with emotion. "No one died because a brave little alien girl refused to let them. Tell me? That is not worth fighting for." The Human Alliance flagship traveled to Velthara with a small fleet as escort. The Veltharan government, which had always been secretive and isolated, had reached out personally. They wanted to thank the humans who had saved one of their children. When Lyra was well enough, they brought her to see Day One. She ran into the room and climbed onto his medical bed, carefully avoiding his injuries. She was crying, but they were happy tears. "You are okay," she said in halting Korean. She had been practicing. "Thanks to you," Daewon replied, his own eyes wet. "You saved my life." Number 4. You saved my life. You saved mine first. You kept your promise. They held each other for a long time, neither wanting to let go. But both knew they had to. Lyra needed to go home to her people. Day One needed to let her go. When they arrived at Velthara, Day One saw one of the most beautiful planets he had ever witnessed. It had blue oceans and silver forests, with cities that seemed to grow naturally from the landscape rather than being built on top of it. A delegation of Veltharans met them at the spaceport. Among them were Lyra's relatives, who had thought her dead. When they saw her, they made sounds of pure joy and relief. They held her and cried and spoke in their own language that Day One could not understand. But he understood the emotion. He understood the gratitude in their eyes when they looked at him. The Veltharan leader, an elder named Talvin, approached Day One. You risked everything for a child who was not your own, who was not even your species. Why? Day One thought about his answer carefully. Because she needed help. Because I had made a promise. Because it was the right thing to do. Are those not reasons enough? Talvin smiled. Your species fascinates us. We have watched you for years, unsure if you were to be trusted. But you have shown us something important. You have shown us that humans, at their best, are capable of extraordinary kindness. Not just humans, Day One said. Everyone who helped us. The medic, the pilot, the colonists. We all chose to do what was right. Yes, and the galaxy is better for it. 6 months later, Day One stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, wearing clothes that felt too formal and uncomfortable. Around him were representatives from hundreds of species, all watching as he walked to the center of the chamber. Beside him walked Haijin, Kyungsu, Wonshik, and Subin. All of them had been invited to this ceremony. The council speaker, a being whose species Day One did not recognize, addressed the assembled crowd. We are here to honor those who showed us what true courage looks like, who reminded us that power without compassion is tyranny, and that laws without justice are worthless. One by one, they were awarded the Star of Unity, the highest civilian honor in the galaxy. It was a crystal that shone with captured starlight, and it felt heavy in Day One's hand. But more than this honor, the speaker continued, we are here to announce a new law. The Lyra Accords, named for the child who survived, because good people refused to look away. From this day forward, the trafficking of any sentient children is a crime punishable by the harshest measures. Any species, any world, any individual who profits from such cruelty will face justice. The hall erupted in applause. Day One looked at his friends, all of them crying happy tears. They had done it. They had actually changed something. After the ceremony, Lyra and her family were waiting for him outside the hall. She had grown in the past 6 months. Taller and healthier. She wore traditional Veltharan clothes that shimmered with that soft blue light. She ran to him and hugged him tightly. Appa, she said. Father. She had started calling him that after the battle, and he had never corrected her. Hello, little one. Are you happy to be home? Yes. But I miss you. Will you visit? As often as I can, he promised. Talvin approached. We have discussed this with our council. We would like to open diplomatic relations with humanity. We would like to learn from your people and teach you about ours. This isolation has kept us safe, but it has also kept us from making friends. I think my people would like that very much, Day One said. Later, as he prepared to leave Velthara and return to Earth, Day One visited a memorial that had been built on New Busan. It honored all those who had fought in the battle to protect Lyra. Their names were carved in stone, a permanent reminder of their courage. He found G1's name added there too. One sheik had done that, adding her as the sister, whose memory inspired a hero to act. Day One placed his hand on her name. I could not save you, G1. But maybe, in saving Lyra, I honored your memory. Maybe I finally did something that would make you proud. He felt peace for the first time in 10 years. The guilt that had haunted him since his sister's death had not disappeared, but it felt lighter now. Bearable. His communication device chimed. It was a message from Lyra, a hologram of her smiling face. Appa, look what I learned today. 1. Mine. She demonstrated a new ability, making flowers grow in her hands. My teacher says I am very good. I want to be a healer, like you were for me. I want to help people, just like you taught me. Day One smiled through his tears. That is wonderful, little one. I am so proud of you. I love you, Appa. Thank you for keeping your promise. I love you too. Always. The hologram faded, and Day One looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there was Lyra, living free and happy. Somewhere up there were thousands of children who would now be protected by the laws they had fought for. Somewhere up there was a galaxy that had learned an important lesson. One person, making one choice to do what was right, could change everything. He had risked everything for an alien child. And now, the galaxy honored his courage. But more importantly, he had kept his promise. He had protected someone who needed help. He had refused to look away from injustice. And in doing so, he had finally found the peace he had been searching for. As he walked away from the memorial, heading toward the ship that would take him home to Earth, Day One realized something. He was not just a maintenance worker anymore. He was not defined by his past failures or his guilt. He was someone who had made a difference, someone who had stood up when it mattered, someone who had shown the galaxy what humans could be at their very best. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.